I'd like to call this June 3rd work session to order, and before we get started, we were discussing some personnel issues and contract issues before we came out here. Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to anybody on this side of the room want to speak on anything. Go to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Steve Colozzi. You know me as Carnival. I don't live in the borough, but I had an issue here with my kid. He got beat up. It happens. I get a little mad, so just bear with me. He's 8. The kid that beat him up is 15, or the chief argued with me, he's 14. So I apologize. The answer that we were given was, at least your kid held his own against this kid. Now, I don't care. I raised my kid the opposite of what I was. I was a troublemaker. My kids aren't. I just thought more could have been done, and according to the chief, it wasn't. It couldn't. And then when I talked to another cop, he says, your son's not 10, and this kid's in 9th grade, this other kid. So something could have been done, other than the cop telling me I'm invading his space and the other cop pushes me. I said, I'm the one that called you guys. You know, this kid just stopped believing in Santa Claus an hour ago. What can we do about it? And nothing can be done. So after I talked to the chief, I said, I'll just come here and throw it out. So maybe it doesn't happen to other little kids. Because when we were that age, we might have messed with little kids or took their bike and threw it over a fence, but we never beat them up. So I don't know what's happened, and this was on the path. So that's what's got me concerned. Because my wife said, Stephen, don't let him ride up ahead. And I told her, no, let him ride up ahead. And then he calls me crying, saying he just got beat up and slammed by this kid. And the kid admitted to the cops he smacked my kid. So I don't know. I know it's not your responsibility, but...
So you did have a meeting with the chief?
I met with the chief, and his answer was, at least your kid held his own against a 14-year-old.
We're not going to have this conversation here, but what you're saying...
Why can't we have the conversation here? Where do we have it?
In my office.
I had the conversation in your office, and your answer was, you know, if it was me, I'd be mad too.
Yeah,
you know, but be happy that your kid held his own.
Chief, I'm sorry.
I mean...
if he's going to let me talk, I'll talk.
Go ahead.
Not something
I didn't know I had to give you permission.
I treated you like a gentleman.
Not
I treated
really.
you...
Go ahead.
My turn?
Go ahead.
I treated you like a gentleman. I treated you with respect. I listened to your concerns. At the end of that conversation, we had an amendable solution. Now, this was how many weeks ago?
What was the amendable solution, other than...
Question. Can you answer my question?
Which was what?
How many weeks ago did this occur?
And I answered you, I don't know.
Okay. So this is my final comment about this issue is going to be tonight. I have no idea what your agenda is, why you are here, whatever type of grandstanding issue this is, that's fine. However, I run a professional police department. I'll be more than glad to conduct an internal affairs investigation further than I did that day like I asked you. Monday through Friday, make an appointment with me. Thank you.
And you said you treated me like a gentleman, but you just wanted me out of your office, and that's fine. It's neither here nor there. I'm just hoping that it doesn't happen to other little kids, like little baby kids that are 7 and 8 years old, and you got riffraff riding around here that are beating them up. That's all. That was my concern. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Anybody else on this side of the room want to speak on anything? Anybody on this side of the room want to speak on anything? Go to the podium, state your name.
Good evening, Ken Bixler, live 300 block of Cleveland Street. One question for you, Mr. President. Is there going to be a meeting next week?
Yes.
There is going to be one. Okay, good. Because I know sometimes you combine the meetings.
I talked to council in executive session. We're going to have a meeting next week, but not for borough business. So if there's, look, if everybody gets an opportunity to speak at every meeting. But we have a lot of presentations next week, and we're trying to clear up all borough business tonight. So if You could speak tonight.
So this
if
is
you
like,
wanna come.
this is going to be a combination work session?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and,
Unless something, the public always gets a chance to speak at every meeting.
Are there agendas for tonight, or do you have an agenda?
Jen should be out on it. They're not out there?
K or Ken, you want Ken? Come here, I'll give you.
They're not out there?
No, it's not.
Anybody else need an agenda?
Yeah, the only reason I asked too is because I know, and not that I blame you, I mean, you guys are, here 2 days a month, plus your other meetings that you have throughout the year. But I just noticed a few times I've come on the second Monday, and other people, and there's no meeting. It seems like it was happening more frequently than it used to. But that...
By law, we're only obligated to meet once a month.
Okay, well, that's okay, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not debating that, but I guess what my question is, if going forward, if it's going to happen more frequently, maybe it should come off the borough website, that the meetings are
We
the
can't,
first...
because if we have to meet, it's got to be advertised as a meeting.
So when you don't have them...
In January, we advertise, just like school districts and every borough and municipality throughout the county, they advertise their meetings for the entire year. If not, you're spending money every month to advertise.
All right, I'm just saying, so when do you advertise when you're going to combine the meetings?
We don't have to.
You don't have to?
Well, we'll
So the
do-
people that come on the second Monday are just like out of luck then? Like,
Well, usually we'll resolve it right here, and we'll say we're not meeting next week. That's 99.9%
so
of
if those,
the time.
yeah, and if those people don't know that, they
And they
come...
come here and there's no meeting.
That's what I mean, that's
Right.
what,
But
yeah.
they could also call their council person, contact us if they need to talk about
I mean,
it.
the best way is to call the borough first and see if there's a meeting.
Okay, I was just wanted to clarify that, that's all. Yeah, I heard about the firehouse four-way split coming up for a vote. I guess this came up 5 years. It seems like it comes up every several years. I don't know, And I was always talk that they're going to have meetings set up with the mayor, with the chief, with the individual fire companies to try to consolidate, save resources and this and that. If I can direct a question to the mayor, is that okay? Is that all right?
What's your question?
I just want to ask, well, Joe, you've been mayor, last several years. You were mayor prior to Pat Sabatini. I know 5 years ago, Pat Sabatini was mayor, and they were supposed to set up meetings. Were there any meetings set up to talk about consolidating to save resources, combine, manpower, in the town?
While I was mayor?
Well, I'm just within the last couple of years. Have there been any?
Well, when I went out as mayor in 2009, we had just completed a survey that the council wanted done, and we were in the process of implementing that survey, and we were meeting, all 4 fire companies were meeting, talking about consolidation. Because, quite frankly, we need to do something. We're all dying on the vine. We take in maybe 1 to 2 members a year, totally, and we're lucky if we keep one of those 2 members. So, rising costs, so forth. In order to ensure that the fire department is still here, protect the people in this town, we need to do something. I think the first step is recognizing that there is only 4 stations in town. I don't care how many companies are in those 4 stations, and that's what the tax dollars should be funded for.
Well,
We have a fire board meeting every month. Now, I'm not going to tell you that we talked about consolidation, mergers, or whatever at those fire board meetings. We did at our last meeting. We talked about it. We had the presidents come in and the chiefs were there, and we talked about that. It's no different than it was 2002, 2009, 2014. There's one group that does not want to accept the fact that there are 4 fire companies in town, not 5. And that's the challenge. So that's where we're at this point. And yeah, I am recommending that we look at, we actually go to recognizing in the borough 4 fire stations and fund them accordingly.
But-
And then the next step is looking at and meeting, talking about how do we merge, consolidate, whatever, going forward.
You're saying the
That's my-
consensus has to be, there's 4 companies, and then we'll go forward and trying to consolidate those 4
Yeah, I
companies.
think
That's
the
what you're
belief is
saying.
there's two stations in town. There's already one station I think you belong to or did belong to, up at, next to Walla. And a station down here, whether it's, it can't be in the consolidated downstairs, they can't possibly hold any more equipment.
Right.
You might have to build another station, but all that has to be worked out, and it has to be agreed upon amongst the companies. But one thing, and I don't want to tie up our meeting.
Phil, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure I understood what you're saying there. When you said build another station, are you saying if they ever came to a place where they were
Yes.
together?
Yeah, because
Gotcha.
there's not a station in town
Right.
that can hold the equipment. But where I'm going with that is the fact that we need to do that to ensure that the 10,000 citizens in this town have effective firefighting, volunteers to respond when there's a call.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's dying on the vine.
It's not just Bristol Borough, it's
No.
nationwide. But to
No,
combine
we had
resources.
300,000 volunteers in Pennsylvania, and in 1980, we're down to 33,000 volunteers. So,
Yeah, it's a
but the
crisis.
bottom line is tax dollars.
It's a crisis. And yeah, I agree, tax dollars, bottom line. And it is, I mean, it was 5 years ago, it was June of 14
Yes.
when this issue came up.
Mhm.
Pat Sabatini was the mayor at the time.
Yep.
And I remember my former chief, Joe Nelson, got up here and said, when Station 25 and 53 merged, they combined resources, manpower, tried to utilize equipment, and he made a good point. He said, you're going to take funds away from the 2 companies that did the right thing, and you're going to reward the other companies that stayed singular, separate, when you think about it. Now, I hope, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was
Let me stop you right there can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
When you talk about fairness, for the last 25 years, there's only been one fire company there since 1996. And they've been getting a double allotment for 25 years. So where is the fairness
Yeah.
to the other 3 companies?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I was going to tell Ken, this is going to be this is item number 3 that we're going to discuss together as a group onto the floor, because I don't know if you're going to...
So instead of having dialogue with council, unless you have a question and somebody wants to answer, just finish what you want.
Yeah, I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not, because I don't see other interests here on this issue. So I'm not going to develop into what I was going to, but I just wanted to ask the mayor if there were plans to follow through. I mean, take the ball and follow through with it. Don't just drop the ball like 5 years it's been,
We're already
And-
talking, some of the companies are already talking about possibilities.
I think it's actually shameful the amount that we allot for the fire companies compared to what our police department, even EMS gets, we raised the allotment, I think it was 5 years ago, they did get more. But what as former Chief Nelson said, it made a lot of sense. That's debatable. You can debate whether 25 and 53 are, they're in one building, whether there's 2 or not. I'm not even up to as many facts as I was 5 years ago. But it just makes sense to consolidate. They consolidated. I think you should drop the egos. And I was in the firehouse back in the 70s and early 80s. It's a lot of work. I tip my hat to the volunteers at what they do. And believe me, my contribution was minimal compared to a lot of people like Herbie and everybody that's been in for decades, and Tony Riccio. As a matter of fact, I just want to read one excerpt from 5 years ago when this issue came up. It was by then, I think, Tony, were you chief in the Consolidated in 2014? Yes. You were, all right, you were then chief, you were not a councilman, you were chief. And this is just an extra, because I kept a file on everything that people said and posted. And this is what Chief Riccio said in 2014. I'm sorry, Ralph, what's
I'll
that?
fix my file.
What's that? Now, what about your
Go
file?
ahead.
How thick is it?
Oh, all right, anyhow, in 2014, this is Tony Riccio, said, Chief of Consolidated. I've read through some of the comments on this topic. The following is my opinion on the Bristol Borough Fire Department as a whole. Bristol Borough has more apparatus than can be manned. When the fire whistle sounds, you have members at some companies and none at others most of the time, with apparatus responding undermanned a majority of the time. Bristol Borough Fire Companies have duplicated services, and it is very inefficient. Does this sound familiar, Tom? Okay. There is no need to have 5 pumpers, 2 ladder trucks, 2 rescue trucks in a 1.5 square mile area. There needs to be 1 fire company, that's debatable, one on the north end, 1 on the south end. There needs to be 1 fire company in the borough under 1 roof with 1 set of officers, insurance, etc. The current arrangement is wasting taxpayer money. And I agree with you. We're in a town of 1.5 square miles, under 10,000 people. Bristol Township is like 17 square miles or more, and 55 million. They have the same 55,000 people, and they have the same amount of fire companies we have. Doesn't make any sense. That's all. And in closing, and I hope, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll follow up on that. I hope that you, like, you said you're going to meet with more of the, you said the survey was taken. What was the result of the survey?
There's an excellent format and plan to follow that gives council things to do, the fire companies things to do, the zoning department things to do, and we did implement some of those. But, you know, it's just not a thing of snapping your fingers and saying, you're going to do it. You know, it's all those details that have to be worked out. But one thing I will tell the volunteer fire companies in town that they don't understand, and I don't think they ever understood. I didn't understand, because I was one of those guys 30 years ago said, no, you know, we're going to stand our ground. But this council, as any governing body in the state of Pennsylvania, can decertify any fire company in this town, and they're done. It's that simple. And I'm not advocating that, but what I'm saying is that we need to get smarter. We need to figure out how we can all work together and possibly merge, whatever you want to call it, consolidate, and spend those tax dollars a lot wiser.
Sounds good.
So it sounds like what you're saying, it is that simple. We could decertify anyone that we want.
You could.
Okay, well, that sounds simple to me. I mean, if it's possible, I mean, if you have the ability to do it, and I don't know.
Council has the ability to do it. It's done all over,
Right.
all over the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
I'm not advocating for that. I'd like to see a smooth transition and try to work through it and make it happen. But I'll be quiet because I know the council president would like to move on, and we can talk about this on other things.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, look, I mean, I sat here and said I'm not going to hurt any emergency management service. You know, taking funding away could be detrimental, but listening to the fire chief, listening to the mayor over the last few years, there's 4 buildings in town. And however you want to say there's 2 chiefs in that building or whatever, I understand that, but, you know, reality is there's 4 buildings. There was a point when, before this even took place, council offered to buy DeMarcus's garage on Old Route 13 and move 3 companies in there and leave the company at Wawa. And that offer was turned down because a lot of the firemen said it was too far to get to and every minute counts. But I think, you know, sometimes you let people, and I said this at the fire board meeting, I was invited there the other night, sometimes you just gotta give people enough rope and let them do what they want to do, because there's not enough manpower in this town to service 4 buildings. So eventually, there should be 2 companies or 1 centrally located company, either somewhere on Jefferson Avenue or somewhere in that area, maybe, who knows, where Elm Street is or something, come in with a brand new fire company, everybody goes in, but like the mayor said and Herbie said, there's a lot of costs associated with that. So until you understand the financial picture, it's easy to say, why don't you merge? together until you understand. And look, I'm no expert in what trucks should be out and pumpers and ladder trucks and all this stuff. All I know is I gotta trust the professionals that deal with this, and I've got a lot of faith in what Herbie says, and I gotta take his recommendation and the mayor's. And, you know, it's a numbers game, but we're gonna, like Tony said, we're gonna discuss it tonight. We're not gonna vote on it tonight, we're gonna table this because the allocations that were presented at the fire board meeting aren't correct. So we have to get the right allocations, and I talked to the people in Firehouse today near Harriman, and I don't know what number it is, 51 or 53, and they're gonna have a meeting next week with their organization, and they're gonna come back to us with a recommendation. But I think they understand also that this is gonna take place.
All right, good. That's good to hear. I think it'll benefit everybody in the long run. The other thing is, I want to wish Councilman-elect Gorman and Paschillo good luck in their new roles, upcoming roles, and thank you to Councilman Riccio for his service as council and many years in the fire company. Thank you.
Before you leave, Tony, do you have anything for him? Mr. Devine?
No, I was just gonna say the same thing, you just said that we were gonna talk about it, so.
Ken, I want to tell you, your house looks beautiful. You did a nice job.
Anybody else on this side of the room want to speak, go to the podium and state your name and address?
Hello, Michael Gorman, 311 Mill Street. I just wanted to make a couple announcements on raising, with raising the bar and the farmer's market. Bill, as you know, is usually here, but he's dealing with a bad case of bronchitis, so. I don't know if anyone saw, but this weekend the farmer's market started. We brought it, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Joe was there, and many of you were there. We decided to do this at Mill Street Crossing rather than down at the wharf, just to start focusing on now going out into the neighborhoods. It was a big success. They only had 4 or 5 vendors there because it just started. They didn't want to wait, but next week there's going to be between 12 and 25 there. On a good note, the suppliers there said they had their best turnout and sales that they've ever had. So that was really good. It's really at the farmer's market, yes.
What day?
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's on Sunday, every Sunday from 10 to 1 at Mill Street Crossing through October. And as we get closer to that, they'll make an adjustment of how long through October. But I suspect that it will go through the end of October just because of Halloween. Joe Rakowski at Noble Earth, a big shout out to him. He organized it. He took the ball. It was just a first-class operation, did a great thing. So I just wanted to remind everybody there's going to be signs posted in the kiosk. It is every Sunday. Every Sunday, Mill Street Crossing, 10 to 1. Another thing that I just wanted to mention is the Thursday before the holiday, Center for the Arts, Raising the Bar, and Bristol Riverside Theater got together for they said rather than us doing an event and they'll do an event, we did it together. There was 12 restaurants that we reached out to and hired them to bring into their food. It was they called it the Taste of Bristol. There were performances provided by Bristol Riverside Theater, but it was to honor Keith Baker from the theater and also Joe Segola. Thank you. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but what we do every year at Center for the Arts, Raising the Bar, we do something in the spring and something in the fall honoring the Hall of Fame. And if you get a chance, walk up and down Mill Street. We started almost, we don't have stars, but it's the Walk of Fame, and it's going to, hopefully, I won't see it, but someday it'll go up and come back down the other side. And it's a plaque that goes into the cement honoring the artists. So again, it was it was sold out, 130 people. It was a really nice event. And then finally, I'm sure as everyone has been seeing, the 75th anniversary of Normandy is coming up, and we have two gentlemen in the borough. I think council president is going to announce, to give you more details, but Mr. Domidio and
Camarado.
thank you. And they're going to be honored here, but raising the bar, we just want to put it out, if you're watching, that your families, we're going to do a little reception here an hour before, just something very simple with refreshments, and then before you do your presentation. Also at that time, there'll be two firefighters that will be honored as well, a Bill Ferguson and a Ron D'Angelo, or DeAngelis? Yes, DeAngelis, yes. So I just wanted to mention that. Yes?
Yes, Michael, I have a comment and a question. The first
Yes.
comment is, I think that you do a wonderful job promoting the borough. I think you do a fantastic job of doing that.
Thank you.
The question that I have for you, now that you're elected, this is going to be a different animal. And the experience that I have from you on election day is that you were a little kind of afraid to answer the question.
No, not afraid.
Well, I'm going to
I'm just going to say I'm going to end it.
That's fine, I'll ask the question.
Election day was about me.
Yeah, we know.
Was
I just want
about
to
me
ask you a
getting
question.
elected.
I want to ask you a
So
question.
that's it. Thank
I
you
want to
very
ask you a
much.
question. Michael,
We can talk about it afterwards.
I want to ask you on camera.
Thank you.
All right.
I do.
Any-
as the movie star?
Anybody
Not
else
hardly,
have
no.
anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for promoting.
Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? That ends public participation. Herbie.
Just a couple things. In the last couple of weeks, we responded to a marine rescue in the river. It was a kayak that overturned, dumped two people in the river. Fortunately, we were able to locate the people rapidly with the assistance of the police department. We had a rescue boat pick them up. Nobody was injured, but one of the things was the person bought the kayak that day. It was a one-person kayak. They put two people in it out in the river at nighttime. So they're really fortunate that it turned out as well as it did.
Do they have life jackets on?
One did, one didn't.
Does it mean one kayak?
We had a fire at the Gadenzia House, 501 Bath Road. Fire originated in a light fixture and was quickly extinguished by one sprinkler head of the sprinkler system. So there's always a lot of questions about sprinkler systems. Here, it paid off big time. We've gotten initial improvement for an amendment to the carbon monoxide grant to use $3,600 of the remaining money. And I spoke to Mr. Dillon requesting that we use $1,000 from the fire budget to purchase 300 smoke alarms. And by purchasing the 300, we'll actually save $500 in the purchase. And then the last thing I just want to mention, I always talk about the importance of the EMS QRS. This past week, we responded to 2 calls basically at the same time. The second call was a BLS fall victim, which means a non-critical fall victim. For all the things that were going on in the county, kept bumping the ambulances off that call. We responded and were able to provide assistance to that patient. It took 33 minutes for an ambulance to get there that day, just because of the workload and the demand on the EMS services in the lower end of the county. So, that's it.
Any questions for Herbie? Tony?
Yeah, Herb, I have a couple questions. Could you tell me a little bit about the HIPAA laws? Like, what is it that firefighters or EMS, what do they need to follow in terms of HIPAA?
We don't release any information.
They don't have any information?
We don't release information. Generally, on a lot of calls with the rescue squad, they take over patient care. We might have some information, but we don't publicly release that information.
No, not public information. Like, what are the standards for firefighters, EMS workers, or whatever concerning it?
Personal information regarding to health issues are not to be released.
Not to
The only
be released.
time we've had one request since I've been chief so far, where a lawyer wanted to sue somebody. They sent us a formal request for information on that call pertaining to the patient. We sent them back a HIPAA form, and said, you need to have your client sign this to release it. They never signed it, we never released it.
Okay, because I want to make you aware of an issue that I had on election day, and it pertained to my wife. And this is a letter that my wife wrote about a situation with one of your...
I'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, I'm just gonna, she wanted me to read it to you and to Mayor Saxon, just so you guys are aware of it on the record. She wanted me to read it to you, okay? Chief and Mayor, how can we assure the people of Bristol Borough, the people that depend on emergency services to protect and help them in times of need, to keep their information private? I ask this because on election day, Rosie Torres from Station 51, a Michael Gorman Raising the Bar supporter, made outrageous accusations and mentioned health-related information regarding my father. She was sure to mention that she was in my home on a call with her station. I am assuming this all falls under HIPAA and is a violation. As I do not wish to speak about it further without an attorney present, I will mention that Rosie's behavior was despicable. It is a poor reflection on herself, on Michael Gorman, on Raising the Bar, on Station 51, and on Bristol Borough and the council members that stood there and did nothing. Again, my question is, how do we assure residents of their right to privacy? Now, I see Greg shaking his head, and if you want to...
Tony, I allowed you to read the letter.
Yes.
It's really not a council issue.
No, this is not a council issue?
Why don't you deal with Herbie and the mayor afterwards?
Well, it is a council issue.
It's really
because-
not even the mayor's issue, it's with the fire company.
But it's not something that should be discussed in an open meeting because you're dealing about personal lives of people.
I'm just reading, listen,
I understand.
this is what we talk about all the time.
I
right?
allowed you to read the letter, right?
That's fine,
I
I'm
shouldn't
done.
even let you read it, but
Fine.
because it's something with his fire company, I think it's something that you should be discussing with him after the meeting.
Well,
I'd be
You
more than
can do
happy
what
to
you want to
discuss
do.
it.
right. Well,
I would just say that, like, if that was a borough employee, you would never discuss a personal issue
Right.
out on the floor on
Right.
any borough employee.
That would be a violation of HIPAA.
the discussion would be a violation of HIPAA of what?
Borough employee.
Okay, or are we considered a volunteer, a borough employee?
When the siren goes off, they're borough employees.
Okay, when the siren goes off, so once the siren doesn't go off, then they're not borough employees, so they could do whatever they want as long as the siren's not going off, is that what you're saying?
No,
to
I'm
me?
not saying that.
Okay, well, that's what you're
I
saying.
offered to talk to you
We
offline.
will, we will.
If
It's
you
not
don't want to do
her.
it, that's
It's
fine.
not for you. This is just to, this is
As
for
chief
my,
of that
listen,
fire company and people that are members of my fire company, I'm responsible for them. So if there's issues like that that require additional action to be taken, including training or whatever else, then we'll take care of that. The other thing is, every time we take personal information on an emergency and it gets filled out on a form, when we get back to the station, that form gets shredded. 100%, it gets shredded.
okay, we're talking, maybe you guys aren't understanding. Yeah, you understand, right? I mean, is it something, to me, is it something that you're okay with?
He didn't say that.
I don't
did
think
he?
I said
Okay, is
that.
it something that you're okay with?
Of course not.
Okay, that's all I want to know. I just want to see
I
if you're
offered
okay
to
with
address it.
We will, I just wanted to wonder if you're okay with it, that's
But
all.
understand one thing.
Not okay with
As-
Go.
As the president of council tried to explain to you, that you're talking about an individual member that's a member of his fire company. That's not as chief of the borough, but as chief of his fire company. That's something that he would handle outside of the realm of being chief
So
of the whole
what
borough.
you're saying is that you're more concerned with Rosie's position than
I didn't say
the way, you just said it, what do you mean?
I did not say.
That's what you're saying now.
You're trying to put your words in my mouth.
No,
and that ain't gonna happen.
I'm only saying what you
Not gonna
said, I'm
happen,
just
buddy.
repeating what you said.
All right, listen.
All right, we'll move on. I have another question. Is it, I don't know if this is true or not, but is it true that, is Ralph, Council President Ralph Giuseppe doing work at your Station 51, doing construction work?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a conflict of interest?
Not as far as our company's concerned.
Not as far as the fire department? How many, did you get any other quotes?
It's not my project.
Whose project is it? You're the
One of the
chief.
other members. The chief's not responsible for everything in the firehouse,
Why wouldn't they be?
because there's operational people,
Uh-huh.
there's a president who's responsible for
Who
things.
has the last say?
The fire company.
The fire company, so the fire
Members.
company, who's in charge of the fire company? It's you, isn't it?
No.
The actual building's in charge of itself? I don't understand.
Chief, let me clarify.
No, I'm not talking to the chief. I
All
mean,
fire companies are run by a board of directors or the officers of their company.
Okay.
The chief of the fire department is in charge of the fire department. President of the fire company is in charge of the just like Ralph is.
Okay.
The administrative end. They have trustees, they have other officers. They make those decisions. It's not just Herbie because he's the fire chief
So who
or
would
any
be-
other fire chief.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, who would be the one who's in charge of making that decision to do construction in a firehouse? Who would be the one that's in charge? That's who I
Tony,
would
listen,
want to
let me
ask that
just, let me
question.
just say something. If you think there's something that was done illegal,
Yes.
take it up with the
It's
proper
not illegal. I
authorities.
just want to see if there's a conflict. That's all.
Business
We
to
live
do
in a
work.
small town. Dave Gerard did a roof at number 2's firehouse.
I didn't
Was that
say he didn't.
Was that conflict of interest?
Listen,
We live in a
did
town.
I asked a question, that's all.
But
Go ahead, let me
you're
listen.
in business, I mean, just like Dave's in business,
Yeah.
if we get a phone call
Yeah.
to do a job, there's nothing wrong with us giving somebody a price.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with giving a price, that's why I'm asking. Did you have other
I don't know
quotes?
what fire company.
His
That's why I'm
Company might not
asking.
look
I
up.
didn't ask you, you're a contract, I wasn't asking, I was
This
asking the
is
chief.
immaterial with zoning, so I'm gonna move on.
They
Wait a
don't
second,
require it.
time out. Time out.
Has nothing to do with this council.
This has to do with the chief, who it's his fire company. What do you mean it doesn't have anything to do with the borough? Of course it does. I don't know.
Private fire company.
It's a private fire company that we fund. Don't we give funding to them? Isn't that what we just talked about?
Doesn't give you total autonomous rule of how they run.
Nobody asked you, nobody said total, whatever the word, what did you say, autonomous rule? That's not what I was assuming.
Reach.
I'm asking a question.
Read chapter 7 of the
Chapter 7 of what?
Chapter
The
7.
Bible?
codified ordinances of Bristol Borough.
There's a lot
that
of them in
you
there.
should know about.
But
It'll tell
let's
you
not
right
get
in.
sidetracked. Let's not get sidetracked. The question was to the chief, and for any lay person that's out there, that's on TV watching or that's in the audience, you would assume that the chief is in charge of his fire station, and he would know.
Bad assumption.
That's a bad assumption?
Did you not hear?
So you would know, wait, so how about
Is let
a
him talk
principal,
when
yeah,
he's
let me
done.
talk. So are you saying a principal of a school who's in charge of that school?
No, the school
It-
board is. Come on,
I
you know
didn't
that,
get it.
you're on
I
the school
didn't-
board.
Exactly, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to get the idea of where does it go? Who makes the decision? If we do the funding, Mayor Saxton, right, we provide the funding, aren't I allowed to ask these questions? I don't understand what's so hard about that.
Harvey, if you're done with him, then we'll just move on.
I already answered the question.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, let's move on.
Nasty.
Good.
We're not done with the fire. You have any more for the fire chief?
No, he's not gonna answer anyway.
All right, anybody else have anything for Herbie? Herbie, thank you. Chief?
Not too much to know, just a great job by the fire department doing that water rescue, they really showed what they're capable of. The warm weather's bringing out a lot more issues again with the noise complaints and also neighborhood disputes and a little bit of domestic violence. We understand that, people opening their windows, and so that's been a little activity with that. Juveniles, of course, have been a lot more active up at the Jefferson Ball Fields. We had some people here a couple weeks ago. We've been really trying to address that. Betty, the bikes are out. I hope you've seen them. They've been out the past 2 weeks. And we'll continue to do that, and we'll address the concerns as we can.
Any questions? Tony?
I've seen a lot of stuff on Facebook and being at the school, run into a lot of people. And a lot of people are complaining about the bicyclists, and maybe, I don't know, maybe playing chicken with cars.
Yeah, we've had several of them. We've issued actual citations to them and dragging their
Something to
parents to
cite them
court.
for if they're caught, right?
Yep, we've been doing that.
I have a question. Are you finished?
Yes.
Can you tell me, again, I'm sorry, if it's an inspection or a registration that is illegal to have a car parked on the street?
Registration.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, so if somebody has doesn't have registration, and when they move their car for the street cleaner,
Okay.
shouldn't they be getting a ticket?
If the vehicle's unregistered.
Okay, well, I have people that are calling me that continually.
How would they know if the car was unregistered?
Well,
I'm just
Okay.
asking, that's my
How do they
question.
know that?
Yeah.
Because the car's been parked there for many years, and they contacted the police, and the police said they were not registered. So, now, I'm telling you, that's exactly what happened. So, they're moving it from one spot to another, and they're not getting a ticket. And that's I think that's not right. I mean, those cars are on that street, they're not being
Nicole, if
used.
I can say something. Every time you've ever given me a vehicle or a situation such as this, I've gotten to the bottom of it. So if you give me the courtesy of responding, I'll get the information to you and I'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think I have, but
I will, okay.
I'll give
we'll
it to you
definitely
again, okay?
We'll challenge you on that one.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions for the chief? Thanks, Chief.
Manny?
Mr. Dillon, do we know what, I saw how nice and clean the Lukoil area is, but do we know what's going to be there? People are asking me.
We do not know. I think the property is on the market. We do not know. There's no plans have been submitted to the borough.
Okay.
Is that zoned only as commercial? Sorry, Betty.
That's okay.
Just commercial highway, what do we call that? Highway commercial.
And that's it.
Yeah, I got a couple things. The Flag Day celebration by the Elks is this Sunday, June the 9th, at Lions Park. It starts at 1 p.m. Don't forget, First Friday is this Friday, June the 7th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Jazz on the River, which is an annual festival that the Academic Oversight Committee of the 21st Century has been running for the last 4 years. It's held at the King George, in their back patio and on the street in the back. Music, food, and proceeds go to the Academic Oversight Committee of the 21st Learning Center, which the borough partners in also in the operation of our summer program and a lot of after-school programs. Every dollar raised in that goes directly to the AOC, and I want to thank the owners of the King George, Robert and Bruce and Fabian, for donating that. Saturday, I attended the retirement party for Dr. Schaefer, and I have a proclamation that the council approved, I would like to have approved, entered into the minutes, that we recognize Dr. Schaefer for his 29 years of service. So I'll give a copy of this to the, to the manager. And I think that's it.
Mr. Petrucci?
Just two things. I was happy to see in the paper that Aqua, Pennsylvania, Bristol's water was
The best.
the best tasting water, or the best tasting water in Pennsylvania. So just another positive thing happening in town, and I think they're all good things. I attended a meeting a few weeks ago with Gilmore Associates on the trails and the canal works. It was an assorted group, but it's a health issue. They're trying to tie in health with our walking paths, and there's various funding sources out there. Actually, I was on not as a council person, but as I sit on the hospital board, so I was someone representing the medical industry. They're not representing it, but that was the interest there. But there were canal people there. There were several people. There's a lot of interest, and I think it's going to be a good thing. And I will report back to the council when things go further on. Thank you.
Mr. Gerard?
I don't have anything, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple things. The first thing is, we're getting a lot of complaints about the playground over at the baseball field. I was trying to, come up with some solutions. I mean, from taking the playground out of that in between left field and right field of the two baseball fields and moving it to a different area. A lot of people, didn't like that idea, but they also don't like the idea of what's going on over there. And it's like, ruckus kids, and nobody has any respect for any of the adults or anybody that's around them. And the idea of the playground, I get it, is, a nice place for kids to
Tony,
play.
not to
Yes.
interrupt you. I missed the beginning, I'm sorry.
The playground over at the baseball field. You're getting a lot of complaints.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you were talking about the basketball court.
No, the playground at the baseball field. So, I'm just trying to come up with ideas. I'm listening to some of the people, on social media about the ideas, and, I think you get a lot of good ideas from the residents. So, one of the ideas, and I don't know, how to go about it, but that field's made for borough residents. So, if you get a lot of kids coming from outside the borough, going over, there's no way to kind of hold them accountable, because nobody knows who they are. The police, if they're called on to, they don't even know where they live or anything else. So I was thinking if we have, the kids, they all have school IDs, if they could have, do an ID check and then make that something we add to whoever does the ball field maintenance, right? So Leo Polensky has a contract where he makes $12,000 a year to rake the dirt and line the fields. I thought, if we can have him or get somebody underneath of him to go and check those, the playgrounds, to make sure that these kids are from Bristol and, they're following the proper etiquette of, what kids should be doing on that playground. I also had the idea that somebody else put on social media is putting the fence around it so you can lock it, right? So you keep the fence, and a lot of people start talking about, well, if you put a fence over, you climb the fence. Well, if you use the right, you have the, I don't want to say the wired mesh, but you can have the ones that are smaller so kids can't get their feet into to climb up and play on. Just so you have the ability for when that baseball's done, or you have the ability to lock it and maintain it so, it doesn't get out of hand and the kids, and it all goes to the same thing. And I know I harp on this a lot, and I hope that Miss Cullen, when I'm finished, is able to, do some things for the kids in the town. The reason, a lot of these kids, there's nothing for them to do. There's nothing for them to do. Being at the baseball field is what they do, or they walk the trail. And that pretty much, ends it. And then the basketball courts, we talked about already. We have a rec center, the skating rink, that taxpayers, we pay $650,000 a year regardless if one person goes in there and skates or not. We're paying $650,000 as taxpayers. And the only thing that goes on there is ice skating. And I know maybe 3 kids in the borough that ice skate. I would like to be able to see that at some point turn into an asset for the town and for the kids. Right now, I don't think that we're doing enough to support our kids in things to do. The last thing, Matt Markey, if you're there, I don't know if you can come out. I got to ask you a question.
He's not going to come out here.
Oh, he's not going to come out?
This guy's running a video camera.
That's not that hard. You just leave the video run. He's done it before.
All right, what do you got?
Come on out, Matt.
I'm going to move on.
No, I'm waiting for him. What
He's
do you
not
mean?
coming out.
He came out before. I don't know, why can't he come out?
You need to talk to him. I don't know what it's about, but talk to him after the meeting.
All right, well, I'll just put it on record. Matt, the question I want to ask you is, he's coming out.
So I didn't think he was
Oh,
here.
what did he say, next week?
I didn't think he was here.
Hey, Matt. Oh, okay, well, perfect. Bob's on it, he can run it. The meeting that we had
Yes,
last month
yes,
was cut.
yes.
It was edited.
It was stopped by.
Why?
Because the chairman took a break.
The chairman took a break, but the problem is, there's a lot of people that watched the video that's on YouTube.
The live feed, right,
Go
so
ahead.
the live feed had some content get out afterwards, because I don't have enough hands to stop everything at the same time. But it should have stopped, the live feed should have stopped as soon as he took a break. Some material got out to the public on TV because I can't just hit buttons fast enough. When I went back and put the stuff together, only the content from when he took a break to when he rejoined the meeting is what we air.
Okay, so
So
a
when
lot
he
of
took,
people.
when he took that break, the people at home heard some things still
Yeah.
before I could hit buttons, because I just couldn't hit things fast enough.
Right.
So that's why they heard it inadvertently.
Okay.
They should have never heard it, it should have been stopped as soon as he took a break.
All right, so is that a problem if other people heard it? Because a lot of people are asking, what was Council President apologizing to me
Right,
for?
right.
And they didn't
That's-
understand why.
Right, because they wouldn't, because as soon as he took the break, that's where we stop our recordings.
Right, and
that's
now
what we
you can
have.
see why that would seem a little fishy to
Right,
people,
no,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
That just comes down to me not being able to turn off the live broadcast quickly enough.
Okay.
So that's where that piecemeal comes together.
All right, so, and then the second question is, who decided, like, what took that video or that meeting so long to come out, and then it would come out the first day after the election? Who would make it, why would
So
that
really
happen?
that just falls to me to pull the video. So when the video gets recorded, then it gets rendered, then I cut it for TV and for web. Normally what happens is usually a week later because we come back for the next week's meeting. We didn't have a meeting the following week and I was busy with different things, so it just took me some time. That's all
Right,
that was.
it had nothing to do with
No.
there being some,
Nothing at all. If anything, I also had requests from our, I guess stenographer right now. She was looking for the video too, and I was like, I haven't gone to the borough to get it yet to bring it back. So it was just, we didn't have a meeting, so I didn't come and get the video.
okay. I appreciate you coming out too, thanks. That's all I have.
Right.
Just one thing, I know I've had a few questions from residents about the old Danish Market on Farragut Avenue. There is, if you see, there is an application for a liquor license in the window. From what I know, it is the people that own the Dairy Deli, is that the right terminology, on Route 13. So they are requesting to move to Danis's. So I think a few things that is important to note, some of that we don't have authority over, namely that the way it's zoned, I believe, I could be wrong, Mr. Dillon or Mr. Splerner might want to correct me if I'm wrong, but that they have a right to go into that building. But they are requesting some variances for zoning. I don't know exactly what it is that they're requesting at this point in time, but I do know the meeting is on Wednesday. So if you are interested and concerned about what they might be applying for, as I am, Wednesday night zoning meeting. I unfortunately will not be there. I'll be in Baltimore on a class trip,
But I will.
Councilwoman Cullen will be there. That's all I have.
First, I'd like to talk about, Mayor Saxon talked about Dr. Schaefer's retirement party. It was really nice, and I want to thank Jen Moyer and Mary Younglove for doing such a fabulous job. I think there were like 150, I believe, people who attended, and that's great because Dr. Schaefer was a really good man. He was always approachable and fair, and I just wanted to say thank you to him and to Jen and Mary Younglove, and I'm sure there were a lot of other people that helped out as well, but it was a very good evening. The King George did a wonderful job. And I also want to talk about the Bracking Cadets. I spoke with Art Younglove, and he'd like to see some young musicians to become involved in the drum and bugle corps. So he said that you could come out to a meeting, which I don't know when the meeting is, but I will find out, and the next meeting I'll tell you about it again. He said that they really want to get the youth involved, so because there's a lot of older people and they're probably going to want to, go out at some point, and they want to continue this tradition in Bristol. So also, I have a letter that I would like to read from Nick DeStasi, who is in charge of the borough basketball recreation. It said, I would like to thank Bristol Borough Council, the school board, for their continued support of our basketball league. A special thanks to all the coaches, sponsors, and parents who have supported the program this year, and especially the borough's secretaries, the school custodians. This year we had 126 players, 12 teams, 3 leagues, great coaches who gave up their time to help our youth. I would also like to thank Ann Walk and Philomena Catroci from Great IDs for all of the shirts, Jerry Devine and Jim Petrino for running the clinics, and Bill LaRosa for refereeing our games. I would also ask the current council for their support next year, please. Thank you. This is from Ms. Stasi. And I think I'm good. Everything else is, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to go to Merle. Go ahead, Merle.
No more storms, Merle, no more storms.
I just wanted to give council an update. On April the 1st, PICO representative Ted Duran contacted Mr. Dillon regarding a upgrade, electrical upgrade that's going to take place in Bristol Borough. They're going to be replacing 2,500 feet of aerial cable and several new poles in the vicinity of Otter and Old Route 13. This will improve electric reliability in the borough, especially in the area of the Grundy Tower. They're going to start the cable replacement from the pole at the intersection of Green Street and Linden, and then go south on Linden to Otter, east on Otter to Bath, then southeast on Bath to Old Route 13 to a switch on Pond Street near the Grundy Tower property. This will be a heavier duty cable than what's up there now. All this work is within the right-of-way along the existing pole line. Associated with the work, they will have to be trimming some trees along Old Route 13 along the Spurline Park. There are 11 trees that need to be trimmed to allow proper clearance between the trees and the upgraded aerial cable. There will be no trees removed. Last week, Mr. Dillon, myself, and George Waldron, Public Works Superintendent, met with Ted Duran and the PICO Vegetation Management Supervisor to discuss the tree trimming time and no parking to be coordinated with borough residents. PICO's contractor for the tree trimming is going to be Aspunk Tree Service, they're who they usually use. Aspunk Job Supervisor will stop in Borough Hall in advance of any work to be performed in the borough in order to notify us of scheduled work. Additionally, where necessary, Aspunk will post no parking signs on the streets in advance of the work so that residents can properly open the street by moving their cars to a different location. PICO also notified us there was a complaint sent in on the 400 block of Pond Street in the rear, and it's the row houses, the brick row houses, and they have the rear of the houses where what they used to call a bus. It's 3 wires that go from house to house, and it's starting to deteriorate. So Mr. Durant sent a crew out to scope that, and on or about July 23rd, that will be taken care of with a new service in the back with 2 poles in the rear of these houses and triplex cable to each house. That takes care of the PICO structural update. I'd like to thank the Snyder Girardi Elementary's service learning students for their kind invitation to all of our first responders. They provided us with a first responders dinner reception on May the 16th from 5 to 7 at Snyder Girardi School. Thank you to the points of contact Carla Tyrell and Sarah Snyder of the committee, and all who attended were treated to a delicious meal and great desserts, a personalized card, and a gift. A great time was had by all of our Bristol Borough first responders who attended. Great job, Snyder Girardi Elementary's service learning students.
Good job.
Question?
Any questions from Earl? Thank you.
Thanks, Merle.
I have a couple things before we go into our voting for it. First, to talk about what Michael talked about earlier about honoring, there's 2 Bristol Borough war veterans that we know that stormed the beach of Normandy. And everybody knows June 6th is the actual day that happened, and it's 75 years. So I've been working with Mr. Pezza to try to, find out. We contacted the Lally family who was involved in the monument in Bristol. Bill contacted other people trying to find out, are we missing anybody? Don't forget, I think one guy's 95 and one guy's 93 that was involved in this. So if there's anybody that anyone knows in Bristol that was involved in this D-Day operation, please let us know before Monday when we do this presentation, so we're not missing anybody. If you guys are writing something, you can put it in a paper, please contact the borough ASAP, because the worst thing we want to do is we know of 2 people, we did as much research as we can, we don't want to miss somebody. If we did, for some reason, we'll have to do it again, but it's going to be a nice presentation that we're going to do here, and it would mean a lot that the council knowing that we didn't miss anyone. So, if you know a family member, a friend, anybody, please let us know by the end of the week so we can have something made up for them. So that's going to start at 7 p.m., our meeting on Monday night. We're also honoring 2 firemen, Ron DeAngelis, who put in 50 years of service, and Bill Ferguson. There's also more firemen that put in 50 years or more. We're going to try to start doing a few at a time. The mayor's going to compile a list with the fire chief, and we like to start bringing people in to recognize them for X amount of years of service over the next several months. I think the chief and the mayor also has some accommodations and awards they want to do, maybe in September, October for the police department. So again, we're going to try to continue a positive direction with the borough. But mainly, if anyone knows anybody, please contact us as soon as possible. I'm trying to think what else I had. Okay, so we're going to have a couple agenda items. One is to approve the, number 1, approval council minutes for May 6th, approve the union contract, and we're going to hire 1 part-time inspector. I know I had something else.
And we have to make a motion to recognize Dr.
Wait, I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
For some reason, I can't remember. It's my fault. We're tabling 2 motions. I'm going to need motions on 3 and 4.
Right.
Lorraine, go ahead.
We're going to make a motion to recognize, give the proclamation to Dr. Schaefer, which has already been done, but we have to put it on there.
Okay. I mean, the mayor, that's fine.
That's what he said, that's what the mayor,
Which 2 are we tabling?
3 and 4.
Tabling
3 and 4.
the 4 fire companies.
Right, I knew that one.
Tabling this ordinance amending the petition of a variance.
Right.
Because that's not ready yet, and they said they'll be back in July.
Gotcha.
We thought it would be ready for tonight. So does anybody have anything else before we get to this part of the meeting? Anybody else in the audience? Okay, I need a motion for number 1.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of council meeting minutes of May 6, 2019.
Second by Ms. Rodriguez. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the union contracts.
second by Mr. Catroci. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3.
I'd like to make a motion to table number 3 until further discussion.
All those in, second by Lorraine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4.
Wait, don't we have the questions and comments?
Want to discuss, I said questions or,
You didn't on that one.
yeah, but that's okay. We'll
All right,
go back.
yeah.
Table, there's no questions.
Yeah, we talked about now, I'm not an expert with the fire, just like Ralph said, with the pumper, the hose, whatever that is. I don't even know any of that stuff. But I do want to tell all those volunteers that you do an unbelievable job. I mean, it's something, that I couldn't even think about doing, and you guys do it at your own cost, your own will. So, like when I think about having 5 fire companies, and they want to take, I don't even know, how much is it that we want to take 24,000 and split it between the other 4, or?
Total of
Trying to get
We're
the
not
right
sure,
number.
we didn't get to the right number, that's why we
I
tabled
think the
it.
right number is 26,000.
Okay, so, to me, I don't understand with all the things that are going on and the amount of volunteer firefighters that we don't have. I mean, they're like, I think the mayor said, they're falling off the vines. There's not a lot of people there. So you have all this apparatus all over the place, but you don't have anybody to man it. And to me, it doesn't make sense to cut. If we have 5 fire companies, and we're just going to cut one, we're going to take the funding from one company and split it to the other 4. To me, it doesn't sound like anything but a punishment. I don't even understand the concept of it. If we're going to cut it back, to me, it just makes sense. Look, you're willing now, take a stand, make a decision. If you got 5, let's do it right now, split it. The town is not that big, and Councilman Riccio was a fire chief. You got a town that's a square mile and a half. You have one in the west or wherever the number 3s is, and then you use the one that's by the Wawa in Harriman. Come together, put your egos aside, and you'll have, that you'll go that much longer. Because what's going to happen, you're only going to dwindle. It's only going to continue to dwindle, and you're going to have 2 people at this firehouse, 2 people at that firehouse. One's going to be a chief, one's going to be a volunteer firefighter. So, like, the time to do it's now. Come together, and it's for the good of the town, right? It's for the good of the town. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving you my opinion. And until somebody that is an expert can tell me, something to change my mind, that's how I feel. We should have that money, whatever that money is, should be split 2 ways. Use whatever we need, the equipment that we need to maintain fire service and keep the people of this community safe and at ease with what we have. And I don't think that we do that. It sounds like we're collecting stuff. We're collecting these very expensive, it's like, to me, it just sounds like people who collect toys or collect cars. They're just proud to say, look, I got this. Look how nice it is. You ever use it? We don't have to. We polish it all the time. So I just would like to see, that's where I'm at with that. I would like to see it split right now. We're going to cut one. Let's cut it. Let's make it 2 right now while the iron's hot. Let's not wait another year. Let's not wait 5 years. Do it now. While we're willing to cut something, let's make it down. So,
I have a question, actually. 25 and 53, with the proposed agenda item for next week, would they become one fire company?
You can answer that question.
Everything I've read, they've been one fire company for 25
Yeah, I mean
years.
technically.
No, technically. I mean, they were the ones that had the newspaper articles, they gave interviews, they said we merged.
Right, I guess maybe this is just nitpicky, I'm just curious, like literally like we have 2 numbers on.
For 15 years after the merger, they were America Hose, Hook and Ladder, Station 53.
Mm-hmm.
And then we asked to change the money, and then they started going back to saying, well, one's 25 and one's 50. But for the first 15, 20 years of the merger,
one station number, one name. Okay, and I know that this, I don't know why I'm fixated on this, but I feel like if this is something that we go forward with,
We'll have 4 stations, that's the.
and will we call them,
Who cares what?
I kinda do, to
It'll
be
be
honest with
Station
you.
53 and whatever they want to name, there are 2 companies or 1 company, but there'll be 4 stations at that point.
part of me feels like part of the problem, starts with that separation. And I don't know, I still have a lot of research to do on this. I've spoken to a lot of people that obviously have widely varying opinions. I think it is,
Here's the bottom line, to make it somewhat simple.
yeah,
4 stations, if you divide the total runs up, each station provides about a quarter.
right,
Each station, a fire company.
right.
So why should that station?
No, I get that.
2 allocations?
I get that. I guess,
That's the whole crux.
no, I get that. What
I
I'm,
can understand that, that's the whole crux.
yeah, I'm talking bigger picture as well. I think we all, firefighters, council people alike, and I don't know that we're prepared to make the move that Councilman Devine is talking about.
Absolutely not.
But I do think that, and we kind of said this over the years, but maybe we get more serious about having a year-long conversation, not a couple weeks. I mean, us and the fire companies about the reality of consolidation and what is probably coming, whether we like it or not.
I think that the main problem right now is what Mr. Devine wants to do, and I'm not disagreeing with that, because we always said there should be 2 companies. The problem right now is how do you put all this equipment in 2 buildings?
Sell it.
Nobody's building is big, well, you need more than 2 fire trucks.
No, I'm saying, you got 2.
So what
how
I'm
many
saying
fire-
is you can't put 6 or 8 pieces of equipment in 2 buildings. So there would have to be a new building built or a building big enough to accommodate 2 companies or 3 companies or whatever is going. Let's just say you split the town and 2 companies merge and 2 companies merge or 3. I still go back to the best way to handle is one central fire company in town where all the members, there's enough manpower to go fight fires. But that's not a discussion for today, and we couldn't make that decision today because if we said, okay, we're going to give 2, you're going to put 2 companies out of business, and they have nowhere to put the equipment, even if they agreed with us. So that's the issue. Mr. Ricchio had the floor.
Yes, so, not to make it more complicated, does this address any of the reliefs money? Because I think that's that's done by the state, so that they can continue to receive their relief money through Act 205.
Well, right now, there's 2 different checks.
I guess not recognizing that has nothing to do with the relief money.
The Relief Association will be a separate.
Entity.
That's controlled by the state and how that's allocated. But, again, if the borough would decertify your fire company, then you would not be eligible for fireman's relief funds, I would believe. But I'm not advocating it.
You're a fireman. I mean, your thought is 4 companies, I mean, you said that before.
No, but I agree with what you're on. The ideal situation would be if we had a plot of land somewhere to put everybody in there. What I would do is I'd say, hey, listen, you guys have to work this out, because this is where all the money's going, is this one firehouse.
I think we discussed that too in the past.
We met with you years ago when the 3 companies came together. We had a written agreement. We just couldn't find a spot anywhere big enough to house and to build on. That was the issue. I'm going back 10 years. So that would be the ideal situation, would be, in my eyes, I'd say.
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
But
we
to
were
cut
there.
the funding
Yeah.
right now 50% and just give the 2, you can't do
You
that.
can't do it.
No, you can't do it that way.
All right, so that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain to Mr. Devine, you just can't do that.
You have to work through getting all the companies together, to work through how you're going to do that process. If the borough just says, we're going to 2 stations and we're going to 1 station, okay.
Yeah, but isn't that basically what we did when you just had this meeting and cut that one fire company out?
No.
They were aware that was going to happen?
They were aware of it that night, but this is.
That night, yeah.
This has been going
Well, that's
on
what
for
yeah, but
15 years, but what I'm,
Yeah.
the point I think you don't understand, Tony, is
I think I
that.
understand, but go ahead.
No, I think the point you don't understand
Go
is
ahead.
that just because you decertify a fire company. Who's going to take their equipment? How are you, the borough council, going to pay them for that equipment if you want it to go into that
I'm going to
station?
tell them, I'm going to say, listen, I'm not an expert. I'm going to talk to the fire chiefs, or like you told me,
You don't know
or
that.
their board, or whoever it is that's control of the money and who runs it, and I'm going to say, this is what we need as a borough in order to maintain and protect our citizens. Everything else is extra, we sell it. That's what we
But you
do.
don't own it. That's the point I'm trying to make to you.
Okay.
You, as a council, do not own their individual equipment.
Okay, what I'm
Each
saying.
fire company owns their
Okay,
equipment.
well, whoever owns it, if you're coming together as two companies, whoever owns it, it goes into those fire companies. Don't have to come to us, you go to the fire, it goes into
Building
their,
to put all that stuff in.
well, I don't know, because, I mean, Tone, what do they need? I mean, your opinion, I mean,
That could vary, I mean, our opinions may vary.
There's
His
actually,
and I-
We have,
over the time period, there's been three
Three studies.
official professional surveys, and none of them reached a consensus on anything. It varies from one station to 3 stations, from one ladder truck to 2 tillers, which require 2 drivers, which in today's world would make no sense. But that's at the time, that was what the person wrote in their survey. So all the surveys are different, and we've had 3 of them.
and also too, you can't equate Bristol Township with, being the size that they are, and Bristol Borough with the size that we are, because firefighting is different. We have all of these row homes. It's not a matter of you wait outside. Our guys are going in the door to try to put the fire out. They're not single homes. They got to get in there. So you need, certain equipment. We do not need all the equipment we have today. There was no question about that.
We're also competing for the same grant monies, the federal grant monies.
Right.
It's very, very inefficient the way it is now.
Can I pose a
And I
question?
think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, sorry, Larry.
I just want to add one thing, because a lot of comments were made, well, that was pretty simple, why didn't he just do it? And a lot of things, but historically, I've learned, not just in Bristol Borough, but almost nationwide, if you're in a government position, you don't want to increase taxes, you don't want to mess with the fire companies. I'm serious, this is like, people that raise taxes don't get reelected. And people that go against the fire companies don't get reelected. So if you're looking for reelection, this is not the kind of thing you want to deal with.
but no, that's the thing about it. Nobody should base their decisions on being reelected.
Nope.
You're basing it on political things where listen, it makes sense to the town, that's why we do it. If you're worried about getting reelected, then you don't do anything.
Well, I'm saying it's not my
No.
my philosophy.
Okay, I just thought
If
that
you want to
was.
get reelected, that's why you stay away from raising taxes or fighting with fire departments. Even fighting with police departments is not a very popular thing. You don't make a lot of points doing that. Plus, when you have volunteer groups, remember, when each company had a couple hundred people, they had a lot of clout. Today, they don't have the same clout, but I think people in government still feel like we owe the fire companies each their opinion. And we want to get that. So I think we got to work with them and try to get everybody's opinion. Nobody's going to be 100% happy, but
look,
maybe that's what we have to,
Just so I mean that we're having this conversation is that the things that I'm hearing is we have to get the fire company's opinion and this opinion, and we want everyone to be happy. It's the people of the town that we should be worried about. Like, to me, I don't care if this fire company's not happy or this fire company's not happy, right?
They're all not happy, and they say, we're not fighting fires in town anymore.
Okay, then we gotta go do a
And what do
different
we
thing.
do?
Look,
Man, what do we do?
but let's be realistic.
I mean-
That
I
was
mean,
gonna happen.
I don't want to interrupt.
No,
you,
that means
but-
they gotta come together to come for, they gotta come, they're firefighters, they have everything in common. How many people like to go in and burn a house and try to freaking save? Not me. I won't want to do it. So they have that together. They're gonna come together and figure it out. But if you keep keeping it separate, and here's the thing about it, and I agree.
To keep it separate, I'm saying we have to get everybody to agree.
You're never gonna get
All right,
everybody.
Let me just explain one thing.
I don't think we can just chop people.
We just did it. You
First
just
of
chopped the
all-
whole place off. What do you mean?
First of all, all we can control is the funding.
Right.
It's $143,000 a year. It's not like they get $1 million.
No, I know.
So if we said tomorrow, we're going to pick this company and this company to get the funding, that doesn't mean the other companies are going out of business, because it's their own business. It's their own company, their own organization. They're self-sufficient. We just we throw them a bone to try to keep them. Really, the borough is benefiting, because if we had to go to a paid department, it would be the borough would be bankrupt.
$4 million.
So if we said tomorrow, Herbie, we're not giving you the money, that don't mean his fire company goes away. They own all the equipment, they own the building, they own everything.
We just wouldn't fund it.
So I understand what you're saying. The suggestion is 2 companies, we all agree, but that doesn't mean whatever 2 we pick, the other 2 are going to say, well, we're closing up shop tomorrow. It's really their decision.
Well, it sounds, from what the mayor said, it's not their decision, because if that's the case, we have the ability to decertify them, and they won't be. That's the way I got it.
You can, but I don't think that's the road you want to go down.
Well, I'm just saying,
Why don't you explain it, because maybe he'll listen to
Certify,
you.
you're just saying that, they can still be in business, you're just saying they're not
Get our
able
money.
to run any calls in the borough, that's all you're saying. They can still operate, but they just can't do anything in the borough, they could go out of town.
I'll give
All
you
right, I
a
got a question then.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Would they be able to, I'm sorry, Mayor, I just want, if your company wasn't given the allotment that was to the borough, would you be able to survive?
They're in a different situation downstairs than any other fire company, to be honest with you, because they're in this building, they have no way of fundraising.
Yeah, they won't
The
be able
other
to
guys have
survive.
halls and do fundraising, things like that. They're downstairs, they are very, very dependent on that money. If you
But
took
the
that
answer-
money, they wouldn't make it, no.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
No.
Can I,
Go ahead, Greg.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So, I think, twofold, I agree with Council President DiGiuseppe, Councilman Devine, that in some day and age in the very near future, I just think we need to be serious about the conversation. I'm not saying no one's serious about it, I'm saying it might not happen until we take some action to push it to happen, number one. But number two, what I'm looking at just today, like literally, I mean this week that we're talking with what's on the agenda, I hear a lot from the guys in that company that say, and I don't have a good answer, and maybe the guys that have been in it longer do, that it feels like to them that they're getting punished for doing what everyone else should have been doing, which is consolidating. And I'm just wondering what the response is to that, if that is a fair argument, or, because I don't know the history enough, and a lot of people that I know and like and trust tell me a lot of different things, and.
So Herbie, why don't you explain to Greg about how many members are in each company?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is, you have to fill an IRS form out every year for your fundraising and whatever your assets are. And so I've looked at all the fire companies that fill them out in the borough. I found out this past 2 years that number 2's America Hose, Hook and Ladder filled out their reforms, and they asked on that form, how many voting members do you have? Mm-hmm. They said 25. Then I looked at number 6's for 2017, and it said, how many voting members do you have? And it said 2. Then I looked at 2017, and it said, how many voting members do you have? And it said 1. So that's the information that they're providing to the IRS, that fire company has 1 voting member. And so somebody signs that certifying that's the correct information, and they send it in. The other thing we've been tracking in this...
I gotta be honest with you, I don't know what you just, I don't understand.
There's a form you have to
what you
fill
just
out
said.
that goes to the IRS.
Right, but so
On that form, it
who
says...
has 1 member?
1 voting.
Number 6's.
Okay.
That's what they told the IRS. They have 1 voting member.
And
Where's
what do you
number
have to
6?
be to be a voting member?
I have no idea. I mean, they filled the form out.
Does that mean,
I'm just saying that,
are you saying 1 member?
Oh, is
yeah,
In the whole company?
but it said, that's what they sent the IRS.
That's what they're saying.
All right, so I think that we kicked this around. I think that we heard from the mayor, we have seen reports over the last so many years from our fire chief. Again, fire board meetings are, I guess they open to the public, Herbie, if any council member wants to
Certainly.
ask any questions, you're more than welcome to go. Before we move on, there is somebody here from, do you want to say anything?
Anybody who wants to come down to the station, by all means, come down and we'll talk to you guys. I'm the chief down there, so if anybody... Sorry.
Chief where?
Chief down at 5325. So if anybody wants to come down, I wasn't going to talk, I just came to listen. We would like to know what IRS forms that he stated that we filled out where there was one member and then two members. From all our understanding, it's just filing paperwork. It's not determined on what our members are. Every year, we have to give you guys a report on how many members each station has, and they're both equal. There's like 20 and 25s, and I think like 16 or 17 in 53s that we have as active members. So again, we encourage all the council to come down, and I'll meet with you, Greg, and I can answer any questions that you have to help better understand the stations down there. But we are in the same boat that we feel that we did what was supposed to be right in 96. 2005, they said there should be one station, but yet we consolidated into one to pool our resources, pool our manpower, and we're still getting hit every year that it's either elections or we're not. As far as the comment that was made about, drawing a blank now.
The best of us.
Huh?
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Membership.
Well, it's not just the membership. I mean, we're all for either joining forces and making one station, we said it to you in our meeting, or two stations down below. But to say that just because the side of the truck says America Hose, we're operating under one station, it's inaccurate. Just because you say that you merged by the state, we contacted the state, and there is no official merger between Station 53 and Station 25. No packets were ever filled out. There's no legal document that says it just because a newspaper reported that we merged doesn't make it a full merger. We did consolidate in 96 because of this issue. The manpower is low, and it keeps dwindling every year. Councilman Micrio can attest to the volunteerism has decreased in the borough as throughout the entire country. So pulling our resources together was the best thing that we could think of. And I mean, again, by all means,
I think a lot of the argument is that there's 4 buildings in town and there's 5 shares. I mean, I talked to you guys the other night.
Correct.
So I mean, it's not that, I'm not disputing anything. All I'm saying is, you have 4 buildings, one building's getting double the amount that everybody else is getting.
Right, and we consolidated.
Right, so,
I mean, you
if
still
these
have
guys
2
are-
stations that are operational. You have 2, like, the budget that we have, that we get from the borough is keeping us afloat. Yes, we try and do coin tosses, but we can only stand at the Amish market so often, especially with the manpower. I sent an email to Mr. Dillon to see if we could do the coin tosses back in the township or on the Bath and 13, because, you know, the state did recognize that was one of our big go-getters for fundraising, standing there and holding the boot. The only thing we needed was approval from the municipality that we are in, and we were told that the borough doesn't allow fundraising on the streets. Okay, so we then had to go to Tullytown to ask Tullytown if we can use their Walmart to fundraise, because ours is closed down. So, I mean, our fundraising opportunities are limited as a volunteer company. But again, as a volunteer company, yes, it's our business, but we rely heavily on the amount of funding that we get. So cutting it down, even if it is half or whatever the case may be, will hurt one of the stations one way or the other. It's not, well, what if? It is going to hurt.
And then you listen to them and the money they're, look, it comes down to about $6,000 each company's going to get. I mean, you're still going to get a piece of that share. So
We're going to one station. You're going to cut
if you split it 4 ways instead of 5 ways, you're going to get 6,000 more than, and everybody's going to get the same amount.
But to one station.
They're not getting any, right?
53s, you're not going to give any money to 53s. All the money that you're going to give, all the money that you're going to give is going to go to 25s. Then 25 has to help 53 stay afloat. Even if you cut it down a quarter like we discussed, it's going to help us. It's putting a Band-Aid on the wound.
But
you rip the money from 53s, Harriman will lose 1 truck. They'll lose a fire department.
Right. But the same argument they're making is, you know, we have one building, we have 2 trucks too. Why shouldn't we be getting the same amount of money? And they're running more calls.
They're running more calls because it's medical calls. And the only reason why, it is absolutely the truth. And the only reason, it is true. The only reason 25s is showing, and I tried saying this in our meeting, that there are no box cards or no calls for Station 25 is because the chief of the borough, one of them, who makes the box cards, would not approve me to put 25 boxes back on the cards. I was told that that was never the case. There was no 25. And by boxes, I mean, when we go out to Dellaview Apartments, it's box 53, let's say 69. That's a 53 box, depending on what truck gets called. So if it's the ladder or if it's the rescue, there's no 25 box 63. There's no 25 box at all. I requested that we put the 25 box in for all of our high-risk boxes. So Lennox, the school, stuff like those. And they said that, no, that's not going to happen. If that was the case, 25 would have numbers according to the county. County only counts the numbers based off of what the box card is called for. So all of our boxes are 53, no matter what the case may be. But to say that there was never a 25 box, it's incorrect.
Mr. Devine.
Yeah, I don't understand any of that, but that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is I have to make things simple so I understand it. To me, I don't understand, because we talked about this for years. Every time it's always the same thing. And it doesn't make sense. Unless we are going to split, do something dramatic where it has a positive effect, and we split the 2, I don't understand. It's like, why do we need to make it 4? Just to punish that one company. It just doesn't make sense. And I know nobody in any of them. It just doesn't make sense to me unless you're going to split, do it drastic and do it the right way, split the 2, or leave it alone. Don't even mess with it. Let them survive, and because to me, if you got 5 companies and they're helping borough residents, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want the most help we can get. Simple as that. And I have to make things simple, I understand, because all the other stuff doesn't matter to me. I know that you guys do a good job. I know anybody that is a firefighter, EMS, EMT, whatever, they're there to help. I understand that. So to me, it just sounds like it makes no sense to cut anything if we're not going to do something drastic. If we're not going to do something drastic, keep the same. That's all.
All right, is anybody, Louis?
I just have one question. This is a long-term, down the road, eventually, you know.
Cutting the funding?
I'm not talking about funding, I'm just talking about how this whole fire.
Correct. Hopefully it goes to one building.
But, no, I'm talking long-term. Is it possible that we would have in the town one fire company with 2 locations? So there wouldn't be a survivor. Because if I belong to Consolidated for 50 years, do I want to see them closed down? Or if I was at, Hook and Ladder, do I want to see it closed down?
I don't think any of the like members want to see any of the stations closed down,
Right.
but it's 2019 and they have to think
But
realistically.
this problem with volunteers, it's not just the fire companies. It's the Rotary clubs and the Lions clubs and the churches. Everybody's fighting to, people just don't have the time and energy to volunteer anymore. They want to sit, online, but if we just had one company, would that be the ideal situation then?
We threw around ideas left and right in our meeting that we had, and both stations down there both agreed one building is sufficient. It goes back to just people losing titles. But then you just have to work it out. If you don't want to have a borough chief paid, you don't want to go to a paid department, but you have paid chiefs. I do the same exact thing that he does as a chief, but I'm free. I don't cost you guys anything. So why you have paid chiefs, it's an ordinance that needs to be changed. But having having one central location, every truck stays the same, sell the extra pieces. My station has two main pieces. You have a rescue and a ladder, but you also have engines because they have the functionality of an engine. you have 2 engines downstairs, 2 engines at 52s, and a ladder and a rescue down at 51.
Still have the Marine?
And we still have the boat.
The
And
only Marine, right?
we are the only Marine in the boat, yes. And then, but that's another, like, that's a specialty that we chose to do, to provide extra protection for the borough. But you would just sell extra pieces. You can physically do one station, it's just a matter of getting together and banging out everybody.
So not to drag this on all night, I think you guys, I spoke to Dave Albright today. He said you're meeting next week, I think.
We have a meeting tomorrow. We had a meeting tonight with the our financial guys.
So you guys are gonna meet. I think council's aware of some of this, situations that's going on here. We may request another meeting before the next vote, which will take place at July's meeting.
Okay.
By July, I'm hoping to have this worked out where everybody leaves this room happy. That's my goal. If that doesn't work, then council's gonna have to vote on how they feel about everything. So
And I really,
I'm
if anybody
available,
wants
I
to come
told
down.
you, at the fire board meeting to attend any meeting you want. Any member of council is willing to talk to any fire company they want, or the fire chief or the mayor, to get any background before you vote. But I foresee a vote definitely happening no later than July's meeting,
Okay.
which I think is fair to all 5 companies or 4 companies to voice their opinion to whoever they want.
Like I said, if you guys have any questions or want to stop down, please stop down. And like I said to you, I'm still waiting for that information that was given to you for my stations, because I had the treasurers who are responsible for the finances try and pull together where one station said they had 25 and one station went back and forth between 2 and 1, and we can't find it anywhere. So,
All right,
thank you for letting me speak.
thank you. All right.
Mr.
Any other?
President, I'd like to
Okay,
make,
so we're down to, everything's done? We got a few agenda items and that's it.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to table number 4.
I have a second. Second by Ms. Rodriguez. Questions or comments? Motion's tabled.
Number 5. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to hire a part-time inspector up to probably, hopefully, 30 hours at $15 an hour per the manager's discretion, as we all agreed that it would be. And that person is Rosie Torres.
I have a second. Second by Mrs. Cullen. Questions or comments? Mr. Ricchio.
Well, what's Rosie's qualifications for the inspector's job?
She's going to work with John for a few weeks, and he's going to try to train her. It's only for nuisance calls, grass,
We're really backed up.
just basically same thing Kevin did.
The reason why I ask is, I mean, she's a registered nurse. I don't know why a registered nurse would want to go into code
It's
enforcement.
the only application up here. If anybody knows any part-time inspectors that's looking for, like, an inspector that's looking for a job, please notify us, because we're so backed up right now, one person's not going to get us caught up. So if you know somebody, tell them to come in tomorrow and put an application in. Anybody else? Mr. Devine?
Yeah, on that note with Mr. Ricchio, the reason, I'm assuming that there's only one application because nobody knew about it, right? And this was something that we talked about.
We all knew Kevin left. You knew that, didn't you?
Okay, what's that have to do with applications?
We need an inspector.
Listen, just because Kevin left, that doesn't negate the fact that we talked about this before, right? Transparency, people who are going to, when these positions open up, we're going to put it out, and whoever's interested in those positions will have an opportunity to fill out an application. We were going to do it, and Greg was the champion of that bill, being transparent and moving forward, having people apply for these jobs, giving it a month ahead of time, getting these people there, not something that just put under the gun. Because what happened is this: you did the same thing with Kevin Brannigan. You put somebody in there that shouldn't have been in the public. Now, despite him being a hard worker, which I know he is, okay? He should not be around people, the public, okay? And you guys all decided to vote for it anyway. And we decided that, all right, we're gonna change the rules. We're gonna change the rules a little bit, and we're gonna make it more transparent for everybody to come and fill out these applications. Now it's not happening. Now we come to a meeting and we're hiring somebody that's gonna do the same thing. Like I just told you, Rosie Torres, okay? Rosie Torres, can I go up there so I can look at you guys when I ask you this question? Do you mind if I go there? Okay, so before we're going to hire Rosie Torres. Now, we just talked about this in election. I just brought this up, and you guys can talk about a lot of things. I'm get accused of taking personal shots at people, which I have never done. Okay, I've never done it. Personal shots.
You never took a personal shot at nobody?
No. What? First? Never. Never. First. Have I? Tell me when, because I've never done it. All right. That was a good one, because I knew you were going to go with it, but I knew you did it first, so that's why I take personal shot. But that's besides the point. The point is this. We talk about raising the bar, okay? Moving forward in a positive direction. Making everybody accountable, transparency. Making this town like it's a new hope, a new town, moving forward. But here's the thing about it. This whole raising the bar and all this other stuff that you guys want to talk about, it's all lip service, it's all talk. Because the reality is, it's more of a cult than it is anything else. And I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. Is because when you have somebody, Ralph, right? Answer this question, Ralph. Politics. At that election, when I walked over, now I hear your wife call me a disgrace, right? Did I get upset? Did I say anything to her, Ralph?
Hear my wife say anything to you?
No. Well, she did. It's no big deal. But I respect that it's your wife. I have no problem. I have enough respect, Ralph, that I'm not going to say anything to your wife because she's sticking up for you. I would expect her to do that. Betty, have I ever brought anything up personally with you? Did I ever say anything about... No, I'm getting to the point, Ralph, because this is important, okay? This is important. Have I ever said anything personal to you about anything? Personally attacked you? Have I ever done that?
Absolutely.
Tell me when. Personally attacked you. Tell me when.
You don't even get into this. Let him finish.
All right, well, this is what I'm saying.
This is not about me, though. It's not about me.
No, this is because you were there. Betty, listen, you were there. That's what it was, okay? So I'm going to replay the whole thing, okay? Let's replay it. And this is what I want to talk about, no humanity, because you want to act like nothing happened, okay? And it was disgusting what Rosie Torres did.
I have it on video, Tony. You're not putting on videotape.
Put it on.
I'm not about that, but thank you.
Oh, what? I have it on video. I don't want to get sidetracked. Betty, all I'm going to say is this.
Tony, get to the point.
I'm trying.
I'm going to...
All right, right. This is what I'm saying, okay? Where's the humanity with this group? My wife had nothing to do with politics. She got personally attacked, okay, by the person that you want to hire as a part-time inspector, okay? Now, would you be okay with what she said?
Tony, I wasn't involved.
Well, then I'm going to tell you because you were there. And my wife's probably going to divorce me, but I don't care because that's how fired up I am.
No, I wouldn't say anything.
I don't care what you would say. I'm going to say it, okay? This is what you did, okay? Rosie Torres is on that list. You guys want to hire her. When I walk back, okay, on election day, I walk back from a car. Politics stuff, no big deal. I'm showing a picture of what we saw with Ralph, what he did on New Buckley Street. He cleared out a house, stuck it on the sidewalk, put it in the street, had the trash man come and collect it all. That's at least $500, $600 if he would have got a dumpster. Which we know he did not get a dumpster, okay? We did not get a dumpster. So I'm showing the picture to people, and I want to ask them, are you okay with our council president using your trash service as his own personal dumpster removal service?
Apparently.
Okay? Wait a second, Ralph. I'm talking, please. Okay? So that's all I was doing. Political stuff. I'm showing that. not asking anything. As I walk back from a car, I hear Rosie Torres commenting about stuff that she saw, okay? Stuff that she saw on a call with her 51 or whatever it is, the truck or whatever company that she worked for. Talking about, you're disgusting what you did with your father. Your father was this. Your father did that. You locked your father in the basement. You sent your... No, I don't rap. I don't care. This is coming out. Well, then let me do it then, okay? Now, here's the thing about it. You knew my father-in-law, okay?
Great guy.
Yes. Nobody loved that man more than my wife, okay? And to hear Rosie Torres come and say the despicable, nasty lies that she said, and you support it, Betty.
I was.
You support it. You didn't say nothing, did you?
That's not my place to say anything.
It's none of your business. Perfect. None of your business. You said nothing. Okay? Here we go. Listen, Betty. Listen, you weren't there. There you go. Stick your head in the sand.
happened to your father.
But anyway.
So don't even go
Somebody
there,
want to move the
Tony.
question and we're going to vote.
My God.
Wait.
Motion to vote for the...
Here's the point. Okay, listen to me.
Let's vote
Tony.
right now.
I'd like to make a motion to
Listen,
vote
it's
for
disgusting.
what's on the floor.
Lorraine,
I
who are
can
you?
move the question.
Listen, you're a disgusting human being if that you're not letting me finish this.
Tony, when
Did
I
you hear
had
what I said?
cancer, when I had
Listen.
cancer, you really killed me.
Yeah.
On this floor, you really killed me. When
Yeah.
I had
Lorraine.
cancer. Don't
I
start.
killed you when you had
Yes,
cancer.
you
Never
did.
did.
Lorraine.
Yes,
Never
you
did.
did, and I
All
can
right.
bring it
Listen,
up.
there's a motion on the
So-
floor, all in favor.
So here, wait, let me go over there.
Who's opposed to the motion? Mr. Ricchio, Mr. Devine, Mr. Girardi.
Everyone's opposed to it. You're an
Motion
embarrassment.
carries.
You're an embarrassment.
Can I get a
You're an
motion to
embarrassment.
adjourn?
And you're especially an embarrassment. You know why? You guys have no humanity. You care about stupid that don't mean nothing. Okay? That's what I'm
Why
saying.
don't you hit me like you do people?
Yeah, I hit people. There you go. I hit people.
Motion by Ms. Rodriguez, I need a second to adjourn.
You know what? I love it. Humanity. Look.